So welcome to Red Deer Public Library's Travel Memories program for January 2021. My name is Priscilla and I'm on staff here at the library, and I'm really pleased to welcome a coworker for this month's presentation, Shannon. She was fortunate enough to have been on a exciting kayaking trip that she's going to tell us all about. And I don't know, anything else we should discuss before we get going here, Shannon?
I don't think so. I'm just going to show you a picture of a map, kind of describe where we are, and then I have a video that I will sort of walk us through so you can see all about the trip.
Okay. Hey.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And I'm happy to be here to talk to you all about my kayak trip on Desolation Sound. The map that you're seeing right now is the whole Sunshine Coast area. It's a map I just pulled off the BC Parks map. And I think you can see my pointer here. So we entered the water in Oakover, and this little inlet here has Oakover sea kayak rental place that we rented our stuff from. So we started there. We got in our boats, and then we kind of came around down this straight here. And then we ended up in Hare Point, which is about right here. And that took us not all day paddling, but all day just to get into the kayak and then out on the water, and then do all the fun things, and then get there in time enough to be able to set up your tents and get spots before it got too dark. So that it's only about 8 kilometers, I think, but it took us all day. That was our first day. And then we went up and around this point here. This was quite a slog of paddling, high waves, because of such the broad expanse. The wind really picked up that day, and it took us pretty much anything we had just to get to Kermie. And then in Kermie, we stopped there, set up our tents, and then we did an excursion out to Unwind Lake. And we ended up swimming at Unwind Lake, filling up our fresh water, and then back to Kermie, and then back to Hare Point, and then back to Oakover to return the boats at the end of the trip. So that's just a little overview of where we went, how far it actually was on the map. It looks like we barely did anything, but it was a lot. It was a week's worth of paddling, and it was fantastic. So I'm going to switch over now to the video. So this is a YouTube video that our one of the kids that we traveled with made out of a collection of all of the photos and videos and all the fun things that we did. Somebody had a GoPro, so we attached that to the boat sometimes. Yeah, lots of fun things we did like that to collect all of the data and the images and stuff that we have. So we are a youth group, a family outdoor adventure youth group. And so our club that we belong to is called the Red Deer Woodchucks. And it's a Junior Forest Warden club. And there's Junior Forest Wardens all over Canada. There's some in BC, there's a whole bunch in Alberta, some even in Saskatchewan, and all the way out to Newfoundland. It's a forestry preservation group that started in the 1930s out of BC. And it just kind of caught on. We taught kids how to be out in the forest, take care of the forest, make sure it doesn't burn down. It had a lot of BC forestry sort of push. It was funded by that. It was a way to engage youth, but also help them maintain the forestry culture and economy, if you will. So we are one of those groups. I've been involved in that group for 16 years now. All my kids have gone through it. You start when you're just in grade 1 and you go through all the way to grade 12, and then you graduate. You have to attend with your parents. It's not like a Girl Guides or a Beavers or Scouts where you just drop your kids off. It's a whole family participation, which is why during this trip, there's all of the children, and then there's all of their respective one parent. So you go with your kid, you learn with your kid, you do all the outdoor adventure stuff. They learn things like starting fires, using knives, axes, saws, compass work, learning how to be in the wild, that kind of stuff. And lots about ecology and forestry and things like that as well. So it's kind of a fun little program, great education that you can do with your whole family. So here we are going to take these group of 8 kids on a kayak trip to be sort of the culmination of their year. So many of these kids would be graduating out of the program. And so we like to do a high adventure level program with them at the very end and use all their skills that they've had. And it means that I have to learn all the skills as well as all the other parents and do all the same prep and work. And we did a lot of prep and work for this. We did tons of work with we took kayaks to the Innisfail pool. They do lots of indoor kayak training so that everyone could get comfortable with rollovers. So just in case it happened on the ocean, we all knew exactly what to do. We also went to Long Lake. There is a couple of people there, Connie and Ingo, who happen to also be our guides, but they do lots of water certifications, paddling certifications. And so our whole group went there, stayed the weekend and got I think it was the open water certification, just so all the kids had all the very safe ground rules. Also, lots of us are certified in wilderness first aid because of the activities we do. So we had a very solid group going in as far as being prepared. We also had a nurse on our group. One of the moms is a nurse, so that was extremely helpful. She had the whole first aid kit, which was amazing to have, so that we were lucky for that. So like I said, there was 8 kids, 8 parents, and then we had 2 guides. And our guides we took because from Alberta, because we already knew them. They have already been involved in the JFW program. We knew that they would be a good fit. They already knew how we worked and what we are all about. And so we hired them to come with us. And we took them in our vehicles with us. So we kind of carpooled around. There's a couple of minivans, a couple of trucks, and we all kind of just booted our way from Red Deer out to the coast all together. We did not bring boats with us. We thought about that. In the end, we decided that it would be easier to rent them there. There would be no ferry surcharges and all that other stuff, not to mention the stress of hauling all the boats and all the things. And it seemed the easier option to rent once we got out there, and it seemed to work really well. So once we got out there and got set up in our boats, then we headed off. So the first part of the video is about us getting there, and I'm going to stop it as we go and just sort of explain some of the little bits that are of interest and value. And there are a couple of videos in here of some of the kids talking. Now, the kids are all about 17 years of age. So some of what they're talking about is often unclear to me as a parent of teenagers, because I don't get the joke, or I'm too old or whatever. So I'll just sort of paraphrase what they're saying, and maybe if there's sort of something we can go over if it's not understood. But the audio isn't working so well in relation to the video. So when it comes time to somebody who's going to start speaking, I'm just going to roll over that. Now, I think everyone might have the YouTube link. So if you want to go back and watch the whole video with all of their audio, I think we can arrange that. And it might give you a little more interesting perspective on the trip and what the kids thought about it. But I will do a little comment about what they said before we move on. Okay, so I'm gonna start her up here. And this is us, this is the footage of us going. And of course, car trips for kids are super fun. We're all in a minivan, we've got the music blasting, we're just heading out down the road, stopping at all the familiar landmarks as one does, as one goes all the way out to the coast. We went from Red Deer all the way out to Powell River. So I'm going to stop us there. Oops, just going to back it up just a titch if I can. Maybe not. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, everyone. Okay, there. So this is, because we're junior forest wardens, we hooked up with the junior forest wardens in Powell River. And a few of them came out to they have like a clubhouse meeting area thing that they do. And it's an awesome covered fire pit situation. And they have lots of open field area. So we could all go and set up our tents, obviously to save on cost with 16 people traveling. Hotels would have just been out of control for us. The whole trip on its own, we fundraised for incredibly. So it was, we were doing everything on the budget that we can. The gear is expensive to buy per person. The boat rentals were expensive, even just the fuel to get out that far. And then all the food that one would need to feed all those teenagers is incredible. So yeah, we were trying to do things on the budget, and Powell River had this really great place. So we rocked out there, and then we were able to hang out with them, meet a few new junior forest warden friends. The red shirts you see here, that's our uniform. We all wear red shirts. And we have a flag that has our sort of crest on it, our logo, if you will. So we brought that with us too, so we could be, yeah, in the junior forest warden spirit, because that's what brought us there. So we left our friends. I don't know if this will work. We also brought another friend with us. So there's a fun story about this little guy. And yeah, it's a half of a jaguar stuck to a mason jar lid inside a whole bunch of liquid with sparkles and glitter. It's like a snow globe, but with a leopard bum in it. I was picking up one of my kids at UBCO and bringing her home for the summer. And we were collecting a fridge at the dumpster. We were dumpster diving, yes, we were, but kids leave these brand new fridges just sitting there, and we thought maybe we could use one. So we took it out of the garbage area, and this little guy was sitting right there on the edge, just left. And I didn't have the heart to just leave him by the dumpster. So I put him in the car and brought him home from BC. And then he stayed sort of in our kitchen area until it was time to pack up and go on our trip. We left, I think July 1st, maybe July 2nd, to head out to BC. So it sat in my house for a little while, and we brought him along for just on a whim. Nothing, he has no meaning to our program or any of us, but he just came along, which you'll see him in a lot of pictures. The kids named him Sanchez, and he traded cars. He went with different people, different legs of our journeys, and he was with us throughout that whole time. And it's a glass jar, so I'm absolutely shocked that it made it, but it did. And one of the kids still has him in his room. So it's a little memento. So you'll see him on the way in case that was a question somebody asked. All right, so there we are on the ferry, moving along. Oh yes, this place is a fun place. There's all of us. Just that where we were there, all in our little piles, was a lake just not far from that campsite, and it's an old forested place. So all those trees have been cut down like early 1900s, and it just sort of filled in with water for whatever reason, the change in the ecology there and whatever. So it was kind of neat to go. You could swim in it. It was fresh water, but it just looked really interesting. All right, so we're going to move ahead. Paddling Desolation Sound. Of course, the Challenger name here is what they're called. When they're 16, 17, and 18, ready to leave our program, they're called Challengers at that point. And so this is us getting our boats at Oakover. We take them down to the water, unloaded. And then we load them up at the staging area because it's really too hard to haul a giant kayak, let alone a tandem one, down there full of all your gear. It would wreck the handles on the kayak. So we haul everything down, and then we bring all of our gear down and fit it into all its little cubbies and portals and all that jazz. And then we get on the water. And of course, our group was really large, with 18 people, including our two guides. They wouldn't let us rent in a giant group. So we had to cut it into two. So one of the adults made a booking for 8 boats, and the other set of adults made another booking for, let's say, 6 boats or whatever. We had some tandem kayaks in there as well. And so in order to keep up the charade, we had to go there in waves. So the first group all got in boats and then headed out into the water and waited for the next group to all get in boats and then head out to that water. So our first group had to sit out in that bay for probably 2 or 3 hours, just sitting there in their boats, waiting for the next group to get ready. That's an impediment with a large group, but I'm sure people that are just doing it for their own fun don't have that same issue. Okay, so here we are, we got in our boats. And this gentleman here on the screen is Cody Howitt. And Cody Howitt volunteered to be the Challenger leader that year of our Junior Forest Wardens, and knew going in that he would be the one that would sort of mastermind this a whole trip. And so he sort of was the lead. He had delegated all the responsibilities to all the parents in different ways. Somebody was in charge of fundraising, somebody was in charge of equipment, that kind of thing. So we did it as a team, but he was really our leader. And so right now he's talking about our day one trip, about getting in the water at Oakover, and then coming to Hare Point. You can see in the background here, these are our tents just going up at Hare Point. And that was our first landing after getting in the boat. So he talks a little bit about that. I'm just going to see where he stops talking. Let's see. There we go. Oh, there we go. Now we're back to some photos. So there's us on the water. Of course, we brought all of our own gear. We needed paddling gloves, the kind that doesn't let the water get back up into your wrist, lest you get a whole bunch of wet blisters on your hands. Of course, life jackets, hats, and then all the dry sacks that you would need. You can see that here, but piled on the top of the kayak there. Most of our stuff was in these dry sacks to try to keep it dry. The boats did have leaks, so I'm really glad we had everything packed up really well. You could store some of the stuff on the top, as we did here. You just don't want your water bottle whirling around in your feet, but most of it was all packed up in these empty areas under the boat inside. There was some at the front. In the tandems, there was some in the middle as well, and there's some at the very back. So there's going to be some photos of us getting our sea legs on, because of course it's one thing to practice in the water at the pool, and then it's another thing to practice when you're really out there in the middle. This was jellyfish, in case you're wondering. So there'll be lots of pictures of the kids. Of course, all these pictures were compiled by themselves and their parents. So there's lots of, photos of their children, and which there should be. GoPro. The scenery was amazing. Lots of rock, deciduous or non-deciduous forest, which is conifers mostly. This is Ethan. He's talking about the first time that he's been on the road. He's never left Alberta. This was his first trip out, and he really wanted to see starfish. And so he's saying he was happy he got to see a starfish. The current was really bad that first day. When the inlet fills in with water, when the tide rises, of course, it's rushing in, and we're trying to get past it to our destination. And so we had to really paddle hard to get across that one section where the current was. It was a little disturbing, actually. This is the view from Hare Point. And so we're that blue tent over there in the foreground is not our tent. It doesn't belong to our group. We're all on this side of this inlet, but it was beautiful. Most of the weather was like this. The gray, it rained a lot. We were wet often, but it was like this. So the Sunshine Coast, prove it. Okay, so keeping on moving. There's us again, Hare Point. That's when it's low tide. This one here is Jenna. Jenna is talking about day one and how much paddling it was and how scary she was to get across this area here, which is funny because now it looks like it's total glass, but this was a moment of fear for me on my first day. That current was killing us. It was sending us all the way back down. And that's all we wanted to do is get right here. So she's talking about how hard that was. And yeah, it's stunningly hard. Like, I don't know why. It just looked like you could just go across, but no, it sucked us back down. All right, should be done right away here. They had each of the kids do a little bit of a talk, depending on the different day. They had different questions for them to help them sort of catalog their trip experience, which is kind of neat. I think they did a good job of that. One of the kids, as I said, Colby Howitt, the son of our leader, he's the one that put this all together, and he's the one that took the time to interview all the kids to get this footage. So well prepared there, that's for sure. All right, so this is some of the scenery that we saw. So private cabins, people's stuff. This is us at Hare Point, putting our boats up. There's Cody and his son Colby, our video maker. And then we had some seals visit us. Of course, there's lots of wildlife out there, lots of eagles, seals, sea lions. We did see orcas the last day we were leaving back into the channel there. There's all our sea lions. You can see them dotted around on this is one of our young gentlemen too, who wasn't sure he wanted to be on this trip, but in the end said, yeah, he would like to. So us paddling. We did some fun things. Our guides are used to playing with kids. That's what they do. And so they had lots of fun little things that we could all do together, just to keep the camaraderie going, to keep the endless hours of just paddle forward more fun. This is us just all coming in. And as you can see, I think this was a lunchtime break that we took on a beach. You can't just bring your boat up anywhere. There's only certain places that you do have access as public. So a lot of the skookum spots are privately owned, and you can't just have lunch there. I mean, you could try, but I think you could get in trouble too. And with kids, you don't want to set that example. So we would find all of the public places. And as you can see over here, there's a boat motor because public is using that at all times. And so when we arrive though, I feel like we are like ants. We just take over with all 18 of our bodies there. I'm sure people were thinking, what the heck? We had to get out. You have to get out of your kayak to eat lunch. All right, this is my daughter Ainsley. She's talking about what she misses the most. We advise people when they're in water conditions not to bring cotton goods. She misses her giant cotton hoodie is what she's telling you there. This is our rain, our lovely rain. This is most of our days. Again, a photo of Hare Point. Again, Hare Point, bringing our boats up. We had to also time all of our boats coming in. Most of the places did not have room for 10 boats every time. So 2 would go in, unload, 2 more would go in, that kind of thing. The kids had a lot of fun finding all of the interesting sea creatures that were there, urchins and fish and lots of oyster shells. We also had a family who brought a crab trap. And they thought maybe when we could sink it off some rocks or something, we didn't end up getting any crabs. So that was a little unfortunate. This is how the kids spent most of their evenings. We built sort of a tarp structure because, as I said, it rained almost all the time. So it was nice for them to have a nice, safe, warm, dry space. This is just on a wooden tent pad. But the one thing that we did bring, this stove in the middle here, I think everyone can see it, the flames. It's called a Biolite Stove. And what it does is it's got a canister that you can feed little sticks in, probably not bigger than your finger. And the fire, it creates ambiance. It's lovely to sit around a fire, and you can't have open fires in this provincial park when you're boating. So there is no campfire-ness to that kind of a trip. So this brought that to us. And also it converts the wood energy into electricity. So the kids were powering their phones from the conversion. So they quite liked that. They could plug in a phone and play music and sit around the fire and kind of have a good social time. So they did that a lot. All right, move in. There's our flag, and then there's Sanchez. You can see him there. We used Hare Point as a landing spot. So the next day when we woke up after our first night, it was raining, and we didn't actually want to pack up all our gear. So we decided that we would stay at Hare Point since we were assured the tent spots. And then we did day trips out of there for 2 or 3 nights, I think. Here you can see their platform better. This is Braden. What's Braden talking about? 7. Oh yes. He's talking about the fact that they did not get any crabs. They were trying to get the crabs, and they didn't have any yet in their traps, and they were a little disappointed that that didn't work out as good as it was. That's Zoe standing beside him, and they're just talking about their day. There we go, some more rain. We tried to stay positive through the rain. Man, 5 days of just rain like that, it wears on you. Everything was wet. I don't know if you can see in this photo here, oops, didn't stop it quite enough. Please go there. Sorry, let's see if I can, starfish, beautiful starfish. This is close to the picture that I had before, but I think you can see this boat sitting up in here. This boat is going to get overtaken by water. It needs to come up and over the wood. The high tide comes up so high, like 15 feet high. So you're hauling these empty boats up to get it out of the high water mark. And then we'd always turn them over because of so much rain. Our boats would get full if you didn't leave them upside down. We learned that the hard way. This is the kids drying out sleeping bags after a full night of rain. It has its way of getting in there, and things started to get damp. Most of the kids had synthetic sleeping bags. I took a heavily waterproofed down sleeping bag. I've had luck with it. It's a very good brand. So I didn't get wet, but the important part is your equipment, right? If you have good equipment, no problems. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I paused it. I was waiting for an event. Yeah, so we changed people up in boats. So it wasn't always mother, son, doing their thing. It was, friends. You could have chance to go in the solo kayak if you didn't start out that way. So we rotated boats up quite a bit. The quality of the boats wasn't that great. So it was nice to get out of your boat if it was a bit of a tank and move on to a slightly faster boat, so you could feel like you were actually moving forward. That was Toby back there, sorry, in the orange shirt, that video. He was just talking about the fact that he really enjoyed being with all his friends. That was his favorite part, is just fooling around with the friends after the kayaking. All right, that's more jellyfish. That one was a giant one. The landscape is so beautifully rugged. It's just awesome. And you know what? I honestly can't tell what he's pointing to. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could, but I don't know. The kids would remember. That's the thing about kids. They would totally remember. This is Zoe. She's talking about bugs. And she's swatting away. They were around for sure. You had to wear some spray, but not too bad. I wouldn't say we were getting eaten alive, but maybe some of us were, and I didn't notice. Okay. Lots of pictures of those lovely little things that we won't see in Alberta ever. Okay, so now we have come to Kermie. So we've left the Hare Point, and this is when we kind of go up and around the point, cross that disastrous stretch that I told you guys about, and now we're at the Kermie Islands. And it's beautiful. The Kermies are gorgeous. They're my favorite destination, and definitely a favorite of the kids as well. You could spread around quite a bit. So up here, looks like there's some kids scouting out a tent spot. I've got some already set up here, and it even goes back over this way. So we were spread out, I would say like a kilometer's worth, which was kind of nice after being in closed quarters all the way out to the ocean. And then you're with people in the boats, you have to stay together. It was kind of nice to have a little bit more space and freedom. And this is at very, very low tide. So we had to change everything up. This is my daughter Ainsley again. At 11, what is she saying? Oh, she's talking about cards. They were playing cards the whole time. So they brought card games and things like that. I guess I'll keep it going. And so that was what they did. We had some fairy lights that were solar that were strung up so they could see. And they played little card games. They're easy to pack along in your stuff, and they kept all the kids fairly occupied. The adults just sat around and chatted, but the kids had a great time playing the games. And they swam. You could swim in the ocean. It was warm. It was beautiful. So the kids did lots of cliff jumping and diving in. Okay, moving on. Here we go. The GoPro. It's kind of fun to watch how we move through the water. We took up a lot of space, all of our boats, that's for sure. There's lots of us doing our thing. And there was always one guide at the front and one guide at the back for safety. And Connie was sort of the head guide, and so she was at the back, and of course I was at the back because I'm a slow paddler. And I got to know Connie very well. She's lovely. But her partner Ingo was way out at the front with the speed racers. This is another shot of Kermie, so you can see that orange tent again. There's our Junior Forest Warden flag, and then you can see our boats here, the white underbellies. We've hauled them up that far, turned them over, because the water would sit right up above here. So we wouldn't want our boats to float away. So yeah, that was probably the most annoying part, is having to unload your boat down here, walk your gear, and then go back down, pull your boat out, and then put it up here. And then the next morning, get your gear, pull your boat down, load up all your gear, and then head out. I think that was probably the most annoying thing, which is another reason why we decided to overnight at Hare Point a couple of nights. It was just easier than packing up all the stuff every single time. All right. We saw deer on Kermie, which was interesting. So obviously there's enough vegetation to have that sustained, that little deer guy go. Beautiful view from Kermie's too. It's gorgeous. Out here they are swimming again. There's lots of options to dive and jump and throw rocks and sticks like kids do. Look at us drying out on a rare sunny day. We had all the gear out, spread out all over those warm rocks. It was lovely. Little seal guys followed us, so they were hanging out and playing right in front of Kermie's where we were there. They'd often sit out. We have a lot of folding chairs. Rocks are hard to sit on after a while, so we found this sale on these lovely little lightweight folding sling chairs, and they come in really handy when you need to sit down in comfort. Trying to think. Lots of swimming fun. Here, okay, so they're interviewing Ethan. Ethan's talking about going out on our day trip to the water, to the lake, and how we swam in the lake, and we finally got a bath. I think he tells you here that we don't all smell like garbage now, which I would say is an overstatement, but it was so nice to be clean and shampooed. And when you're 17, you need showers probably every day. So that was interesting. But it was nice. It was nice to go freshwater swimming, get fresh water, clean up. This is Brayden. They really love to antagonize each other. They were throwing sticks at him while he was trying to talk. And but yes, we got a good swim in at the lake. It's Unwin Lake we went over to, which is just sort of behind him over here. Just go that way a little ways, and then you'd hit the lake. There's a lot of other people moored in that little bay that the lake is at too. So I think a lot of people stop there for fresh water. There aren't a lot of freshwater sources. And we were there, in July. So summertime, but there would be a lot more people when we went probably than at other times of the year. But yeah, there's very few places to get fresh water. So we had a lot of extra water bottles and stuff with us so that when we did find it, we could fill up en masse. And we do the regular filtration systems. Some of us have a platypus system. There's other people that do the life straws. There's people that do the tabs. There's some people that do the UV. So there was all sorts of methods that came with us. Also too, we did lots of dehydrated food cooking. We had jet boils where we heated our water and then added that to the dehydrated food, waited a little bit until it got nice and soft, and then could eat. But we were able to bring lots of more interesting things than if we would have gone backpacking, because the weight is so important when you're on your feet. But in the boat, the weight is much less important. So there's some people that could bring a bottle of wine, or, a soda in a can, or even soup in a can, because the weight isn't the problem. We had to pack in and pack out all of our stuff, so you don't leave anything behind. You pack all your garbage with you. So you want to be prepared for that when you're planning your meals. That was the other thing. Our meals, in my personal day, we would eat, my daughter ate porridge. So we boiled water for the porridge. Sometimes we would cook an egg. I don't eat breakfast so much, so mine consisted mostly of coffee. And then for lunch, we would have probably more snacks like beef jerky, dried raisins, that kind of stuff. Maybe Baby Bell cheese, it packs really well. We did bring apples and oranges with us and stuff like that. And then for supper, we had butter chicken, let's say. It's really easy to dehydrate a butter chicken after a family meal, the leftovers, and then they just get thrown into the adventure box. And so, yeah, rice. And we even had some naan, I think, for that meal. That was lovely. So stuff like that. We ate really well, that's for sure. One night we had a potluck. So everybody brought all the things that they were going to feed themselves that day, and then just put it on a share. This was pre-COVID, obviously. But yeah, it was kind of nice. You have to be creative with food when you're out there. This is the kids playing again. Sunshine. Last day, I think, the second last day we had sunshine, which was nice. But then the last day we had rain again. So I think this is us coming up to the inlet for Unwin Lake. All the kids having fun. We decided to do a group shot up against the rock. I think this is us getting up to Unwin. Yes, it is. So this is us coming into the lake part. There are snakes there, and it scared a couple of the young ladies. So that was a very interesting day for the kids. I think that's what he's talking about right now. There's the lake. So the lake is beautiful. And the lake is freshwater, like I mentioned before. But the fun, interesting thing, and I think they look like all the logs underneath the water look like they were sawed off. So there's these giant chunks of tree just laying down under there. And because of all the bark soaked into the fresh water, the tannins make it very black. So you don't get a lot of visibility in the water. It's very clear, but the visibility is low. So it almost looks like black water when you're in it. I took my snorkel and it was very interesting in there. Very cool to see all the trees hiding underneath. It was very cool. So yes, like we said, lots of great swimming and bathing rituals happened. There's me, I'm swimming. It was a good day for that. Couldn't have asked. We had sun, like amazingly enough, we had sun that day. So that's great. All right, probably going home, back to Kermie after our bath. And I think we'd be at day 5, day 6, day 5. Because then day 6, we went back to Hare Point, and day 7, then we headed back to the Ogover Inlet. So this was our second to last night. They're talking about the fun things that they have done, having the bath, but also playing cards, sunning all our stuff, getting it dried out. Oh, there's some more sea lions. There's seals. And then they did some cliff jumping from these cliffs as well when we were on Kermie. Our guide was very concerned about their safety, so she made sure that she was out there in her boat watching for them just in case something happened. So they were jumping like crazy. They had such a fun time with that. And it's a beautiful sunset. I think that might have been our only day of sun. So that was our only sunset to share, which you can tell it makes me a little sad, but it was a lovely night. We got blessed with that. All right, so this is Zoe. She's talking about the last evening. We're back at Hare Point now. We've left Kermie Islands and we've come back to Hare Point. This is our last night. So tomorrow, the next day, we would be heading back down to back to Oakover to get the boats back. So this is our last night, and our 2 guides did a nice little sort of closure exercise for the kids, where we all talked about something that really challenged us that week on a personal level. Maybe it was frustrations at a campmate, or maybe it was frustrations with your own self because you didn't paddle as hard as you were hoping you would, or maybe there was other challenges that the kids had, and they were each able to go around the circle and felt safe sharing about that. And they were also able to share about whatever gratitude moment they had, thankful that they're here because, and it was really nice as a parent to hear that. So we appreciated that very much. And she's saying that there was lots of tears, and in actuality the kids were kind of weepy about some of the memories that they had. And you know, when you're wrapping up something that was so much effort to get to, it feels like a closure. So everyone was feeling it. We were all kind of feeling sad that this big adventure was coming to a close. We were still many days from getting home, but still it was sort of the last night on the water. So that's what they're talking about as they're throwing things at her while she's on camera, you know, as kids do. All right. There's us packing up. IKEA bags did great because you could put all your little stuff sacks and miscellaneous into the IKEA bag, haul it down, and then put it into your boat. Some fish under the water there, if anyone can see that. And I think this is footage of us heading back. So when we started out, it seemed great, but then the last leg of our journey was not good. A storm came up, so winds started picking up quite a bit. We had to stay really, really close to the rocks so that we didn't drift out. The waves were quite high. What is she saying, Jenna? Oh yes, she's talking about the current going back and how we had to row paddle against the tide quite a bit. There we are, waiting for everybody to get their stuff in so that we could all leave at the same time. You all rafted up, waiting for everybody to be ready. Ooh, we got a speed racer coming through. There was all sorts of different levels of physical fitness as well. I mean, even though we did practice, you don't do that paddling motion normally in your life. The kids are all fit by default because they're kids mostly, but I think the adults probably struggle the most in being fit enough to manage. All right. This is Colby Howitt. He's the one that made the video. What's he talking about? Oh, they're talking about what they would have left behind. And did you bring something with you that you probably shouldn't have? And one of the comments was too much food. They brought way too much food, more than they could consume. And they hated packing the food up and down when they didn't have to. That was the complaint, too much food. Another one on there too, a question of what would you have liked to remember to bring with you? And a book. A book was a request. They forgot to throw something in to read. And I had brought a book, and it's true because when it's raining at night, we were just in our tents reading books, which was lovely. And the kids were under the tarp having a campfire. So it works out, right? Most of these pictures that you're seeing in the last little bit are all from Hare Point. Because we stayed so much there, there's lots of photos from there. Kids had a good time. All right. So this is Colby Howitt. Again, he's talking about the fact that we're on land again. We're not kayaking anymore. This was back at the Powell River campsite. What we did is when we returned the boats to the Oakover inlet there, we all got in our vehicles and we went straight to the Powell River swimming pool, because that's the only place we could think of that we could get a shower. So we all went swimming. The kids had a great time, and being in the chlorinated water was great, and being able to just change into our fresh car clothes. We all had a car clothes bag. So we were able to change into fresh, clean clothes. And then we all went out for supper. So we had a fabulous supper, and the food never tasted so good. We didn't have to rehydrate anything. It was beautiful, yummy food. And so the kids had a lovely celebration. You'll see more photos coming up of us at the restaurant having a good time. But this is the storm coming in that last day when we're trying to get, you could see it steadily approaching, and you knew that you had a slog coming. It just didn't want to stop, and it was fast, just kept coming. So of course that's your impetus to go harder, because can you beat it? I don't know. So we were just trucking that last little bit to get to the very end. I don't know what we're doing. Oh, somebody wanted to make sure they took pictures of everybody. So there was a boat stopped, and then as you went by, they would make sure they took pictures and got a photo of everybody, all the different teams. Nope. And so, yeah, this was the waves coming up. So as we made more progression, they got worse and worse, and it was very much very seesawy, and the weather was very rough. You know, the weather started getting rough. The tiny ship was tossed. I absolutely felt like that one of us was going to go over, but no, we had no rollovers. We had only a couple of injuries. When my daughter was trying to pull the kayak off the beach, she had slipped back and braced herself behind her, and an oyster had cut her right in here. The oyster shells are razor sharp. And so of course it's right here, which makes paddling very difficult. So I'm really glad that happened to be on the last day. So we paired her up with a really heavy duty paddler, so she wouldn't have to do too much to get her back. But the infection situation was the most worrisome because it's salt water. So we had a silver solution that helps with bacteria. So we used that a lot in treating that, so she didn't get too infected while we were still out in the ocean. So this is the bay at Oakover. This is us. This is a photo of us getting our boats, but this could also be when we return them. The person from the business comes, checks out all the boats, make sure we didn't scrape them up or anything like that. And then, oh, there's all of us. This is near where we ate food. And so this is the restaurant photos. This is us getting back together with families. Some of us had more members of our families out there. They just weren't kayaking with us. So there was a reunion with families. There's our guides. There's Connie and Ingo in the back there. And so this is us just celebrating being back on dry land and clean clothes and a job well done. Well, we just have to make our way back to Red Deer after this, but yeah, that's our crowd. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, more photos of restauranting. They all said it was the best food that they had ever eaten. There's only a couple more photos and then I think we're done. There's us packing up. We had a utility trailer, a small utility trailer that we brought with us. And that would allow us to put all of our extra gear in. Of course, when you're hauling 6 kids in a minivan, there's not a lot of room for gear. So the utility trailer helped us out a lot. On the ferry. On this day, we did see some orcas in the bay as well. I don't know that anyone has a shot. It's really hard to see them when they're far away. Yeah, on the ferry, heading back to mainland. The last shot of our flag flying in the wind. And I think that's it. Yeah, and there's us. So yeah, this is the culmination of our trip. These are our memories for our 2-week-long journey at the beginning of July in 2019.
That looks great. I could feel the rain.
Or my depression about the rain.
So did as chaperone, you had specific duties, probably?
Yep. So my job was to be sort of the liaison for all the things. So I touched base with the Powell River Junior Forest Wardens and made sure that we could stay there. I booked the restaurant. I did the reservations for the kayaks, that kind of stuff. That was my job, to make sure that got all sorted out. Someone else was in charge of fundraising. Someone else was in charge of I can't remember what some of the jobs were, sorry.
That's okay. I just wondered how you divvied it up. But each family did their own food.
Yep, we each did their own food, and one of the days you were assigned feeding the guides. That was part of the negotiation price with them, is that if we fed them, then we got a better deal. If they had to do their own food, they would charge more, which makes total sense. So we decided, in the effort of being more budget minded, each family would take on feeding the guides for a day. So we just brought a whole ton of extra food for that day that we normally would. So it worked out pretty well.
Was there a competition who could feed the guides the best?
Yeah, we didn't talk about it, but I know there was one. Because we dropped our boats off at the Oakover Inlet, and then we went to Powell River to do the swimming, and then the food. And then some people were going off and doing different things from there. So another family was driving up to Tofino. Another family was going back down south to their lake cabin in the States. So we all kind of splintered after that. We didn't do a whole ride home together. Everyone kind of splintered off and went their own separate ways after that.
Okay. So you talked about water leaks, and I wondered how you handled that in the boats.
So we had sponges. We had the foresight to bring a sponge, and we actually tied a cord around it and then tied that to the boats. We didn't lose it if we tipped, but the leak would come in, and then we would take a pause on the water and soak it all up underneath and wring it out the side and do that until, we could move on again. Yeah, it was a pain in the butt, that's for sure. And some of the boats had some open like grommet rivet. I don't even know how they're put together in some of the storage banks underneath, but there was some open metal and it snagged somebody's gear bag and we had to duct tape that up. So I always put duct tape around my water bottle because then you have scads of it for when you need it, and that's what we used.
Okay. And you did talk about dehydrating your food. So you do that all the time anyway, it sounds like you're
Yeah, I do, because we do lots of backpacking. I love backpacking. We did the West Coast Trail 3 years before with my older daughter. And so I'm just in the habit of, if we have baked beans, they're the easiest thing to dehydrate. So I'll just throw them on a tray on the dehydrator. And if you don't have a dehydrator, you could just throw them on a tray in the oven and then break up all of the bits and put them in a Ziploc bag, date it, in your freezer, done. And then you have dehydrated meals for the next time you want to go out for the weekend.
wow. So you also talked about snakes when you hiked to the lake. I don't associate snakes with the west coast of BC. Do you know what kind of snakes they were? Like,
I think they were garter snakes. I didn't see
okay.
it myself. I just heard the screaming, and then we heard the stories for quite a few hours after that.
Okay.
I think it was a garter snake. Being near that fresh water there, I suspect that's exactly what it was.
Okay. Okay. But lots of, like, you saw lots of sea stars and jellyfish and
yeah, tons of stuff. Yeah, not too many ungulates. Like we only saw deer on the Kermie Islands there, but we didn't see anything else. I didn't see any bears. We saw eagles, but nothing really big. It's so trafficked there. There's so many boats. Yeah.
And then lots of sailboats too, as well as motorboats, or?
I think because our weather was crappy, I think the sailboats hunkered down and didn't come out, but there was lots of big boats, like big luxury yacht cruisers, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so there was quite a bit of boat traffic out there. Lots of lovely yachts to see. Yeah.
And lots of local cabins too, right? Like you have one shot there, but yeah.
Yeah, there was quite a bit, and it was hard to know what was the Crown Land and what wasn't. So I would highly urge to get a map. I sell them online. We ordered one for every paddling group, so every parent and child got one, and then you could take a look at your map in case you got lost from the group. Every boat had a map. That kind of thing. And the provincial territory there, the provincial park, I guess, is takes up quite a bit of it, but the rest is all very private. I was surprised at how private it was.
Okay. Well, I guess we can see from that map you showed at the beginning. So it isn't the whole area, it's just sort of pieces that you were traveling through. Yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing that whole area. That whole area is the Sunshine Coast. Now, Desolation Sound is that little arm that we came out of the Oakover Inlet there. That's the Desolation Sound in that little area up at the top. So the ocean is so giant, and looking at the map, you think, oh, you can make that no problem, but it's a lot of paddling. Like there's a lot of water out there, lots. So
do you know why it's called Desolation Sound?
You know what? I don't.
No, me either. It just occurred to me. But with all the rain, it's kind of
Well, Desolation Sound in the Sunshine Coast. I think that's not fair. That's misdirection.
So that's all the questions I have. Do you have anything else that you want to mention?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess big thank you to the whole group, right? Because we all came together as a group was the only way that we could manage all of us in that giant trip. Like that's a lot of moving pieces. So everyone played their part well. Everyone kept an awesome attitude. It's easy to slip into, especially when it's rainy and gross and you're wet and your boat's leaking, and right, like we talked a lot about that going in, that you might have to do some mental prep to get your attitude tuned up when you need it to be in your group. And everyone did a great job. So if you're 17 or if you're 47, you have the same challenges, and everyone pulled through mightily. So it just a great group.
Are you still a member of what? Do you have another child coming up, or is this?
Yeah, I do. So 2 have graduated now, and my son is 13. So he's still in the program. He's in the age group called Adventurers. And then I think we have another year of that one. And then we'll be going into Challengers. And we are planning our next epic journey with that set of Challengers coming up. COVID kind of threw us for a little bit of a loop here. So our planning might be, instead of 3 years out, it might be 5 years out. But we're talking about either going up north and doing canoe, or we're talking about heading all the way out to Nova Scotia and doing some canoeing out there. So we got a lot of different things on our plates, little ideas about what we can accomplish. But yeah, more adventures await.
Well, that's really exciting. I really appreciate you sharing them with us. And it's, we will share the link for the video so people can watch it and hear the music and hear the kids talking. But it's really nice to get your perspective. What I've described it as the behind the scenes tour, which is I think what you did for us. Thank you very much.
Good, yeah. And I'm always available for questions. Like I said, I wasn't the only one in all of the planning, so I don't know all of the moving pieces because I wasn't responsible for some of them. But if anyone had any questions, they're free to contact the library, and I can give you a one-on-one if you needed to, or if you had some more pressing questions, I'm happy to help.
Or about the woodchucks too, I guess.
Absolutely. That's a plug for our Junior Forest Warden program. It's an amazing program for kids. Teaches them lots of leadership skills. And my kids can all survive in the forest for a weekend with nothing but a backpack and a knife. So I'm 100% confident of their abilities to survive whatever comes at them because of that program. So yay.
That's something special. Well, thank you again. And I just want to mention that next month we'll be back again on Wednesday, February the 3rd. And this time we're going to Bali with a mother-daughter team that spent a month in Bali. So that should be interesting too.
Fantastic.
Get us out of central Alberta again, which we all need this time. So thank you.
You're welcome, Priscilla.
See you all next month.
Bye-bye.